That's it really. Michele is now going to do some cool shit with Arduinos.
Woo! Thanks. Welcome. This evening I want to share with you my first experience doing something with Arduino, something electronics, and Node.js. That was my first time doing something like this. And briefly we'll see what are little bits. Is there anyone that have ever played with little bits? Okay, perfect. And we'll see the combination of little bits and Arduino, so that we can gather data from the sensor and whatever. We'll see what we can do, something very basic, but something that can give us the idea of what we can do with this hardware with Node.js. A brief demo, then if you have any question there, feel free to ask me. So let's start. What are little bits? Briefly, are something like this. So modular electronic components that snap together using magnetic field. So they stay like this. You can compose your circuit with this little box. They're specifically designed for education, so I would say that they're not something for real pro with hardware that want to really hack. But it's a good introduction to explain some very basic concept that can be helpful doing stuff more difficult than is basic. Specifically this evening we are going to see the Arduino kit, and inside that kit, if you buy it, you will find an Arduino block. Then there is a fork that basically splits the signal in 3 different pieces. Then you have the power, so to actually supply electricity to the entire circuit. A button to dimmers, a bar graph that can show the output of some electrical input with several LEDs, and then a servo motor. So that's the kit that you can get, the starter, I would say the easiest that you can start with. Is there anyone that have ever played with Arduino? Okay. As you will see, it's not the average board that you can find as Arduino, so there is no the typical shield or the pin structure that you would find in Arduino. Why? Because again, this is designed for education, so for doing easy stuff. So you have 2 analog input, 1 digital input, and then just 3 output. But if you want to do something more, you will find all the pins that you can find in an average Arduino board. So then you can get access to all the pins that you normally use inside Arduino. It's just different. You can just plug the shield on top of it because it is slightly different from the board that you have seen. But then the processor and the system is the same. So you have the same pin that you can find in average board. Coming to the software side, we're going to use Johnny 5, that is basically an open source library that implements the Fermata protocol, that is an easy protocol to deal with input and output on Arduino. And well, it's used for almost every type of Arduino board that you can find, and included this one. Because we want to use the Fermata protocol, once you have your board, it's not yet ready to be used. So in order to use it, you need to flash the firmware inside the board. So you have to just download the Arduino IDE. Inside the IDE you will find the code that you need in order to flash the proper firmware on top of this board. Don't forget to use the power component with that board, because the USB won't power the board. The USB is just used to passing data between the laptop and the board. The demo that we're going to see this evening, briefly, just to give you an idea of what you can do, is creating an Etch sketch. And for doing this, we're going to use the Arduino, the power, the fork, and 2 dimmers that will be the axis like the one that you have inside Etch sketch. And then a button to reset the drawing that we did. That will be the final circuit. So again, you have the 2 dimmers, the power supply, obviously, because it's not done by the USB plug, and then the button. That's the basic structure of the circuit. Talking about the software part of this small example. We will have a web page with an HTML5 canvas, and we use a socket.io to exchange information between the web page and the Node server that is actually retrieving the information from the dimmers, so the X and the Y, the coordinate, and also the clear button. Again, using Johnny5 library to gather the information from the board, and then socket.io to pass the information to the HTML5 page. Giving just a brief look to the code, in the server part, we will create using the Johnny5 library a joystick. So just built inside the library, you have the object that basically represents the circuit that you see. Here you have the typical Arduino board that you normally see. So you have the actual joystick, 2 lines for the X and the Y, and then the power supply. So that's the circuit. And then we are saying that we were using the pin, the analog input 1 and the analog input 0. And we want to receive information at a frequency of 10 Hz, so 10 events per second. 100 events per second. And then we will create a button for the reset. Then basically we will serve the HTML page, nothing really difficult. And again, we will listen, we create a socket, and then we will listen for the events coming from the Firmata software, from the firmware on the board. And then we will get the X and the Y, and we will emit an event on the socket, and we will basically do the same for the button, so something very easy and straightforward. On the client side, we will receive all these events, and we will clear the HTML5 canvas, or either we will update the coordinate drawing the stroke on the canvas. That's the basic structure of this really easy example. So let's create it. First, we'll plug the dimmers. As you can see, it's more easier doing in this way than deal with wire and cable and whatever. So pretty easy. Then I obviously forgot the USB cable. Sorry. That's the kit that you would receive. Then we have the USB cable. So we'll plug together.
Excuse me, just a quick, how much does that kit cost?
This will be €80, the basic kit. So it's not that cheap if you compare to other Arduino stuff, but what you get is something easy to deal with. So that's the basic difference, I would say. So let's start this over. So as you see, we are starting receiving events from the board. I haven't changed the dimmer, so you won't see it, but as you can see, values are changing.
Can you make that bigger?
Oh yeah, sorry. As you can see here, you see the value changing. The range is between 0 and 1. So then once you receive the information on the client side, you will multiply by the size of the canvas. And there would be actually something pictured. So let's try something. There you go. So that's the sketch.
Awesome.
So that was the basic example. Just to give you another example of what you can do, I just found that another guy, Dan Woden, created actually a joystick for a Flappy Birds but created with all the little bits. So basically, he created a control with a button, and then he gathered all the information using again Johnny 5 and Node.js, and he printed on drawing the games actually. So that was the component that he was using, the roller switch, in order to make fly the bird, and that is the actual outcome. So as you can see, you press the button, and that is the game, and he created again using all the little bits stuff. So it's also useful if you want to rapid prototyping something. And yeah, that's pretty much what that's about. Yeah.
Is the node running on the Arduino, or is it reading from the USB?
Sorry, the Node.js?
Yes.
No, Node.js is running on my laptop.
So it's not running on the Arduino?
No. In Arduino, it's running the Fermata protocol. So, for instance, let me open the Arduino environment. I have flashed this standard Fermata protocol, so that is what is running currently on the board. And it's basically C, compiled C, and it's implementing the protocol. So basically my computer is asking for information about the input, digital input and analog input.
Because if you want to do a node on the boards, the Galileo board is Arduino compatible, and you can run node natively on it.
Yeah, there is also, I think, Tesla that is running in the board Node.js, directly JavaScript code, if you want to use it directly. No, that's a common Arduino, so it would run that code, not Node.js. It was just having fun. Well, that's all if you have any other question. Okay, finish.